Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the HR Dialogues. I'm your host, Dr. Dieter Veldsman, and today I'll be speaking to Annette Breetzke as we explore digital and IT talent and how you can use employee advocacy programs to make your talent brand sexy and attractive. Welcome to the HR Dialogues, where we learn from people practitioners as they navigate the emerging world of work. Annette, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Awesome, Dieter. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Annette, give us a little bit of context, maybe in a few sentences, just to the audience listening today. I've kind of looked at your profile. It looks really fantastic. Extensive experience from your side in the human resource management field. Can you give us a brief overview? Who is Annette and where do you come from?
I'm Annette Breetzke, and I'm based in Johannesburg in South Africa. And I think since I was young, people mattered to me. I'm someone who loves to know stories about people and how people make a difference in the world. So for me, a big driver is making a difference in people's lives. So I've been fortunate in my career to be exposed to various industries. Now I'm in the financial industry where we sell policies, etc. So very excited. And where I'm at the moment is the IT talent, IT and BI talent. So I believe I'm absolutely in the right place. We're doing such exciting things for talent, for people. And this pandemic has just shown again that we need to put the human beings first. Without humans, there is no company, there is no process. So I'm very fortunate to be here and sharing the knowledge that I've gained in the past while with you guys.
Let's dive right into the topic of digital and IT talent. And in preparing for our conversation today, a few things that struck me that I would like to share with the listeners today is really around a study that was done by Statista that says that 54% of organizations are actually struggling to attract the right technology talent. There's another study that says that 3 out of 4 CIOs says that the biggest inhibitor towards digital adoption in their organizations is their ability to attract the right IT talent. So share with us, why is this such a big problem? And specifically in the context of where you find yourself at the moment, why was this a challenge in Momentum Metropolitan?
For whoever might listen, wherever they are, we are based in South Africa. So that's one of our biggest challenges we have. Our IT people, the supply and demand, it's not equal here. So firstly, there's definitely not sufficient education opportunities in South Africa for that. So we need to upskill our people. And you are spot on. Those statistics are really spot on. Currently in our various CIO forums at our company at the moment, this is the top discussion, is how do we attract the IT people? And the IT people are the youngsters. They're not how we traditionally saw them, where they were the 30, 40-year-olds. They even from 16-year-old. I mean, that's where innovation lies. But we've got to make our brand a brand that they want to work in, because what they want, and I'm talking about the younger talent, is not what the people at my age want, where we want stability, etc. Very different approach.
I love the point, and I want to delve into that a bit more, Annette, around how do you make your brand attractive? So you are talking from the perspective today of the financial services industry, but that is a common challenge that we hear from a lot of our clients that we deal with at the moment, is around the fact that, everybody wants to work for the Silicon Valley startup. Everybody watches the IT Crowd and the Silicon Valley series on Netflix, and they say, but this is the type of company I want to work for. So what was the challenge around why younger IT and digital talent did not choose Momentum Metropolitan as an employer of choice?
There's a reality. And exactly what you're saying is that we all want to work for the coolest brand that's out there, the company that's the Apples maybe, etc. So not necessarily the financial institution. I mean, who wants to work for a bank or a company that sells life policies or health, etc.? Yet the tech is where the big attraction lies. Now, currently, we still have old tech. Yet it's how we modernize those legacy systems and how we attract the talent in from the cloud perspective that's a huge one now. The UX, getting the people to understand that there's opportunities to grow within this tech. I mean, in South Africa, one of the key key areas that we're really struggling to find people is Java devs, our DevOps people. And if those people can believe in our brand, that there's opportunity for them in this brand, then they will come to the company and see. Again, it's what we offer as a company to these individuals. Because it's an individual choice. Previously, people, we thought the company does you a favor to offer you an opportunity. It works very differently at the moment. People choose where they want to go and work. In the IT environment, it's a scarcity environment. So IT people choose where they want to work. So ultimately, we want them to choose Momentum Metropolitan to come and work here. And that's where various aspects that we will chat about a little bit later still, to attract them to our brand.
I mean, anecdotally, an IT professional shared a story with me where, they were in a dispute with their employer at 1:00 on a Friday afternoon. By 3:00, they decided to leave. By Monday morning, 9:00, they had 5 job offers for the next role. So, Annette, let's make it practical today for our listeners. Take me back 24 months, Momentum Metropolitan, new strategy, a big focus on digital, big focus on digital talent. You are sitting there as the head of human capital looking after these particular divisions. What were your first thoughts going through your mind to say, how do I make IT talent a priority in the organization? And how can I actually shift the dial that we do become that sexy and attractive employer that we spoke about?
So they did a few things is very important, and that is the buy-in of leadership. So as human capital practitioners, we can do so much. It's our CIOs and our leaders of our people that lead the people. So those individuals need to understand the important role they play. Once they get that, I'm telling you, the doors start opening. I think one of the key things we also started doing was we started designing opportunities, intentional opportunities for people to connect with one another. An example that we have is our Women in Tech, where we specifically focus on networking opportunities for our women in tech, where we bring speakers in, we bring youngsters in to come and be exposed to our brand. So that plays a key role for us there. And then the other part we did was our brand ambassador program. So the brand ambassador program is really one where we have put in a lot of effort looking at the people and the specialist environments, because as I mentioned just now, the people choose where they want to go and work. So if they have this idea that they want to work with Amazon Cloud or Azure, etc., they'll go and look for those opportunities. So we need to put it out there to say, Momentum Metropolitan, this is what we are using. And as much as cybersecurity teams might say, oh, it's a big risk and our strategy is out there, etc., people talk anyway. So we won't share the detail of it. But that's one of the key things that we did, getting the leadership involved there and then having key people who can share these great opportunities with the market.
I want to delve into the employee ambassador program, because I think you struck a chord with me when you said it is about how you go and tell your story in the external environment. And something that I see quite frequently is, can I call it the old traditional, pray and spray approach, where from a talent attraction point of view, a lot of brands do put themselves out there. They've got a beautiful employer branding video, but it doesn't really provide them with any return on investment. So what I'd love to understand, and I think for our listeners today as well, is why an ambassador program? What led you towards that this is the right direction for us to go? And then talk us through at a high level, what did you do to get this started? Because I can imagine you would have faced, if I'm a CIO with 30 years of experience and you as human capital come to me and say, I want to put you on LinkedIn to tell your story, I can imagine that was not the easiest of conversations.
For sure it wasn't, because there's been many obstacles. So key and very importantly, don't give up when you see your first obstacle. Just climb over it and tag them along. Somewhere along the line, they'll come knocking on your door again and say, okay, so now that this has happened, where are we at? And I'll take you back a little bit on this, because I think that the key connection here is we connect with human beings. I don't know exactly what the saying is around people come and work at a company, but they leave because of bosses. but people come and work because they get referred also to a company. Today, we go and search and Google and we see, what did other people say about a company, about our company, what's being shared on the social media, etc. And that is what we mustn't forget, is people talk to people and people attract people. So a key thing here is we wanted to have authentic people sharing authentic experiences so that people on the other side, prospective candidates, can knock on the doors of those individuals to say, what is it that why are you staying in Momentum Metropolitan? What makes it so great for you to be there? So there's good and bad in all aspects. Yet we do want them to connect with individuals. And that's how the brand ambassador program kicked off. So what we did initially was, and that's why I say don't give up. It takes time to convince IT leaders because remember, there's many obstacles and security is a huge role. The other thing is there's a belief that once people are out on LinkedIn, their name is out there, that all other companies will come knocking on their door. And guess what? It happens. Will they take the opportunity? Not necessarily. We found that, so we went and we identified 45 individuals from various aspects. And a few key things were important for us there. Was firstly, it needs to be people who are specialists in their environments. Not necessarily leaders of areas, but specialists. So people who can contribute with content, etc. The other thing is it also needs to be people who want to do it. It did take some convincing. Not everyone likes to share information about themselves, firstly. So it did take a little bit of a work around that. And then also on that is that it needs to be people who engage and are open to connect with people, and absolutely on a digital platform. They don't have to now go out and connect with people in a forum where they have to go and stand in a little corner. So the digital platform makes it easy. So once we had those brand ambassadors and we've got them signed on, we then started looking at what's the niche. So each one has a different niche. Now, what works in one role family is not going to work in another role family.
I can imagine.
I don't necessarily understand it, but the rest of the people get so excited when they read it. And that's what you need to find the right people who you want to connect with. So your audience, youngsters who want to go into the tech environment, they connect with those individuals and they chat with them online, etc. So that was then the next aspect that we took on after we found each one's niche. We then started training them up and coaching them. A full year program where we, over a period of time, not a once-off where they had to sit a full day in a program. It's half an hour, 1 hour here and there. We got people from the media in to chat to them. We got people in to teach them how to write content. And then we did a great, fun photo shoot.
Oh, I can imagine.
So it was actually so fun because we allowed them, and again, that's why I say what works for one role family is not going to work for all. I mean, a superhero for someone in maybe an actuarial environment might think, oh, they're childish, etc.
Yes.
Superheroes, Star Trek, all of that. It works in the IT environment.
I can imagine.
A few examples I can maybe share.
Yeah, I would love those.
Who loves skateboarding. So he constantly sends videos of his longboarding, etc. And we had people that contacted him and said, listen, but I thought you are a data center manager. How does longboarding and etc. connect with this? And he said, listen, what I am outside does not mean I can't still enjoy doing this. I love my job, but I'm a full human being. There's so many aspects. Absolutely. And another example, we've got a professional DJ, and he's one of our senior managers. So you learn so much more about the individuals in this whole program, and people connect with them. So we found youngsters saying, I love music. and they actually program. And we got them together, and guess what? Some of those people are now working for us. So it's a long process, but it's absolutely worthwhile.
And I think what I love, Annette, about what you're mentioning is, I think a lot of us grew up in this world where we said, it's you at work and it's all formal, tie and suit, and then it's you over the weekend. And I think what you've started to do to introduce that authenticity around the fact that as a holistic human being, I can be good at my job, but still be a fun human being. And I think people are attracted to those authentic stories. And what I also love about what I'm hearing you say is that, testimonials, let people tell their own stories. I've got a personal view. I think in a couple of years' time, something like a job board is going to be something of the past that nobody even notices anymore, because we're going to look at what are people saying about trust in companies, brand experiences, people that's been there, people that haven't been there before. Now, the question I've got, and I love this, that you managed to create this energy in the organization around that. Did you create visibility internally of this program as well? How did you rally the rest of Momentum Metropolitan around this IT ambassador program? How did you go about that?
So I think the key word here is partnership. We've got our internal marketing team, we've got our comms team, and then we've got our group human capital team, and then obviously all the CIO forums, etc. Now, one thing is it's not a standalone. It's really an integrated approach. Now, currently, we've been able to launch it in 2 of our areas. Recently started off in one of the other areas as well. So when we initially started with it, we really got the marketing team involved so that they could actually guide us on how to do it properly. And writing up that story where we had interviews with the individuals where they really said, but this is what matters to me. I will not share my private life because I'm too private on this, but what I will share is the following. So we gave them that opportunity. And then what we started doing was we allowed them to say, okay, so the person that likes to DJ, he likes to be an MC. So guess what he's now doing? He's now emceeing events, not necessarily in our space, but in the bigger group. So people get exposure on that which they want to do as I can't really call it a side hustle because I don't get paid for it. It's just to kind of stretch them a bit in something else other than just their day-to-day work. And that makes them happy human beings, full, rounded human beings. So that was quite exciting.
I can imagine there were a few cringe-worthy moments when you were setting up this program where you thought to yourself, Annette, what am I doing? What have I embarked on? Would you mind sharing some of those with us?
Sure, Dieter. Look, I think one of the key ones was around the idea around cybersecurity, that we're going to share all our secrets with everyone out there and that nothing's going to be safe anymore. The reality is people don't have the intent of harming. So at no point in time do they want to harm anyone or harm the organization. And I think once we got past that hurdle as well, it helped a lot. And the training and the coaching, that continues, because once the people, and I'm saying training and coaching, not just for the brand ambassadors, but for the leaders involved. Because now suddenly these people have got to go and do something else in another area, like announcements or just go and writing up a story, and they invited to share their opinion at a off-site event as an example. Now suddenly it's frowned upon, and it's convincing our leaders, but there's value, because guess what? IT isn't a standalone role family, as an example. We exist as a big organization. It's not the one versus the other. It's the one and the other. And that was quite interesting. And then, listen, the photo shoot, no one can get across that one. That was the biggest fun till today. And this happened more than a year ago. Till today, somewhere, there's photos that are circulated internally from time to time. So that was a huge fun event. And again, that showed me that in the pandemic specifically, people wanted to connect. And that event of connecting with one another at a photo shoot, the men being make-upped, just don't make my lips too pink, not too pink. That was the weirdest of it all. So I think if you also have fun at work, these experiences all add to that moment of us being employees, but also human beings.
And I really think there's a lot to be said for the holistic human experience, which is something that we love to explore on this podcast, to think about the full human being and what we offer and what they bring to the workplace and to the environment. I need to play devil's advocate for a moment. You mentioned the importance of leadership buy-in, and I can imagine you get the question quite often to say, but what is the value that this is providing? Have you found ways to demonstrate that value so that it goes beyond, we've got people to buy in, we've done the photo shoots, we've got the posts out on social media, but what are the success stories that you tell, and how do you convince leaders, to let me go to that offsite event and go and share my view? What are some of those things that you can share with us?
I think one of the key ones was when candidates started contacting some of our people to say, is there a position open there? What is happening? Why are you guys all so excited about working for this company? That day, I actually wanted to go back to leadership and say, I told you so. But again, can't do that. And that's really tongue-in-cheek. I do think that was probably one of the brightest smiles I had for that day. Because more and more we're finding people connecting and saying, what is it that this company is doing? Because and I'm using the word authentically sharing the information and sharing what can be shared. Because we're not saying to employees, you have to at a certain time go and share this. We prompt them, we give them the information, and then they have the opportunity to go and do that. And those are the moments that really, really matter. Because when we had the top employer announcement in the beginning of this year as well, it was so amazing to see that people said, I'm working at this company for 12 years now, and this is why I know they're a top employer. And they actually gave the reasons. And
that's wonderful.
It really was magic, because we didn't prompt them to go and do that. It was something that they put out there. And then the comments from there on was just as amazing.
When you pitched this program to the public relations department and they thought about it, I could imagine there was a few eyes that opened up there to say, but what do we do with all, what if somebody comes back and says, oh, that's, it's horrible to work there. How did you manage that component to make sure that it's not just the success stories, but also that you, I don't want to say curate that content, but that you are able to keep an eye on it and monitor it?
Yes. So again, it's that partnership, 100% that you're saying there. What we again did right up front, it was the brand ambassadors who we offered this opportunity to. Now, it needs to be people who are as I mentioned, your specialists, but it's also your high-performing people who are engaged and in the company, if I want to put it that way. So it's not the people that really are out there just saying, oh, another day at work, etc. Leaders know who those people are that are engaged, etc. So it's again that partnership. So right up front, who those individuals are is key in this whole process. And there's people that opted out and said, listen, I'm not for this. Initially it looked good, but if I really have to put myself out there and I put something out on media and people comment, it's not for me. And it's okay. Move out then. But out of the 45 that we initially started off with, we only have 42 left. Only 3 actually exited from the program. And we're now reviewing the next round of it. So people do say sometimes things that is not in the best way put across. Sure. And again, how do you learn from that? You address it. You have that conversation. Because it's free speech is out there. I mean, we're sitting with probably nearly 17,000 employees. These 42 that we have now have been trained on media, etc. The other 16,000, how many? They haven't.
Yeah.
So they can actually put out anything they want out there.
I think the point you make also around the identification of who these people are is crucial. I've very often found, and I say this as a fellow, HR practitioner and professional, that whenever we pitch to business an idea for an HR initiative or program, very often, you either get that individual in the team where they say, oh, I think this individual's bored at work. Let me put them on this program, or this is my underperformer. Let me give you their name. Maybe, this can do something for them. But I think what I'm taking from your comment is that you have to insist that you get the right people on board if this is really going to work. Am I correct in saying that?
Dieter, you are spot on. Because remember, part of this brand ambassador program is also to get the people to have opportunities at events, at conferences, etc. Now, that takes time and effort. And it's not necessarily the time and effort in a normal working day that they put in for that. So that preparation is generally done after hours. We're not saying it has to be done. And again, they have the option to opt out. But once they're so passionate about this subject, and that's why the subject matter experts are the best, actually. So we had an individual who's a cloud expert, and he has the most weirdest language on how he puts it out there. But when he goes and speaks at these events, he just doesn't stop. And he loves it.
It's amazing.
So it's putting that out there. And I think that's why it's so important to get the right individuals. It's that passion. And that's why I'm saying the leaders know who they are. They know who the people are that are passionate about these subjects.
Yeah, and it brings the important point around content, right? So the co-creation of content, because I think that's where we often fail as well, is, we almost try and write it on behalf of the other individual. And let's be honest, a lot gets lost in translation. As much as you might know about, C# and Java development and cloud computing, you are not going to sound authentic when you are writing it on behalf of somebody else. So I think that's, for me, such a key learning that I'm taking out of this conversation with you is get people to tap into their own passion and help them find their own voice. You can guide on shaping it and forming it, but ultimately it has to be, Dieter is the individual speaking about the things that Dieter loves. And I think that's such an important thing to bear in mind.
100%. And I mean, if I've got a fire in myself for something, I'll make sure that fire keeps on burning. Where someone else, I can't go and ignite it on behalf of. And I think it's key that passion that's there and the value that person can add just comes across more and more. We've as one of the brand ambassadors, he's actually so amazing. He loves teaching youngsters. So he's quite a senior cloud guru, but he loves working with our interns. So he kind of has started to get the interns to also be brand ambassadors. So this is kind of a natural flow because he loves the company so much and what he does so much. He's sharing that passion with these youngsters, and now they're just following his example. And that's some unintended consequences that we've seen happen here. That we didn't even think about. So now he kind of is the father, but he's still so young himself, for these interns. But he mentors these interns, and it's amazing to see how they literally just, if he posts something, they all on that post. And it's, they add and they have conversation and they agree or disagree with him, and then you see their classmates, etc., also joining the conversation, and that's the exposure we were wanting.
And I want to ask the question, Annette, and it's related to this, but I think you've done such an excellent job of bringing people to the organization. You mentioned earlier, it's also about keeping them engaged and keeping them retained. And it sounds to me as if this ambassador program is even achieving that from an internal front, with almost building, can I call them followership communities in the organization? How does that play out?
So what we found with as I mentioned, the 42 that's there, we've really seen that those are also our top employees. Those are the ones that get recognized. Those are the ones that are actually engaging more. And they're partnering with new people that are coming on board. It's as if they, out of their own, I mean, we're not telling them go and be a buddy to this one. When they see one another, and I mean, we're still in a hybrid working environment, but when they're with one another at the office, they can say, listen, I'm so-and-so. And then they say, oh, but that's you. I saw you on LinkedIn. Yes, come, let's take another picture together, and they share it. So it absolutely is creating a community. And again, we've still got a lot to learn. So I cannot say we've got it 100% right, but I believe we are in the right direction. And that to me already, as I mentioned before, is magic.
Yes, and I want to really build on that, Annette, around the fact what were some of those lessons for you? Reflecting back, the program's now been running for quite a period of time. I'm new. I want to get started in this direction as an HR professional. What lessons have you learned?
So I'm going to emphasize the leadership buy-in. Really, do not go on this journey before you've got them involved. And they do not have to be your brand ambassadors. They've just got to believe, and then start very small. You don't have to identify 45 people. You can start with 3, 4, 5, but start then with a small pilot. Take leadership along the journey. And just now we were talking as well around how is it effective, or how can you kind of measure it? It's difficult to measure the specifics, but we can see the engagement. And when our PR team, etc., comes and says, Annette, look at these people are constantly commenting and there's hashtags, etc. I'm saying, wow, when did this happen? So there are measurements that we can showcase. Just don't give up on leadership. Remember, many times our leadership is in a different age group maybe, or they see things differently to what we don't know. And it's not they right and we wrong, or we right and they wrong. It's how do we partner to make this effective? And it took many conversations. And sometimes it did feel, oh my word, am I hitting my head against this wall again? And now, where it's now, it's amazing. I mean, people comment out and blue, say, look, this is what's happened. Because one of the key things that started happening, they started sharing their learnings online. And now leadership says, oh, but I didn't know this about the person. So much is actually happening, again, that we didn't understand up front. We didn't think of all this up front. So we're grateful that it's panned out that way. So again, leadership, key on that. Then who your brand ambassadors are. We mentioned it just now. You cannot not have the right people, if I'm putting it out correctly there. You need the right people. And it's people who are passionate, people who are subject matter experts, and who can contribute towards content, because that's what we want. We want people to put content out there, and not just a photo of just me having a cup of coffee today and tomorrow that. We want true value add content, because people are going to see through another cup of coffee or another that or another that. They'll see through it afterwards. So you really want to be able to add there. And then coach and mentor. That is very, very key in the whole process. You've got to be there with them. And sometimes it becomes heavy on those individuals to actually share some things. And then we say to them, listen, if you're busy at work, please work, it comes first. And then after a month, they might then start engaging again. So it's in cycles as well. It's not that everyone is commenting and writing comment all the time. It depends on what's relevant, etc. at that time.
I think very, very valuable. And I love the idea of this ongoing coaching process. And I love the idea of authentic content. I want to ask you a question about that, Annette, and it's slightly related. And I must admit for a moment that I follow your content on LinkedIn quite closely, because I'm very interested in this ambassador program. You've also created workplace experiences, and I know there's a new office environment that you've created to reflect a lot of what you are, can I call it, selling outside as part of the lived employee experience at Momentum Metropolitan. What role did that play, and what difference does that make? Because I imagine you're going to have to be able to deliver on the promise that you put out into the world once this new employee joins.
For sure, Dieter. And that's why authenticity is so important, because it doesn't help you promise something and you can't deliver. Guess what? They're going to go back online or on media, etc., and go to their friends and say, that I wanted didn't come. That was promised, is not the same. So that authentic experience is so important. And I think one of the key things with our revamp of our office, etc., is to show the people that they have a sense of belonging. And we joke about the coffee, because in the IT environment, I cannot tell you how many discussions we have around good coffee. How important is good coffee for quality work? I am sometimes amazed. And I was actually smiling because I put a photo to share around the amazing opportunity that we've got this specific brand of coffee out there. And someone commented and actually challenged me on it and said, I'll just try and get the wording correct. There's something around rich people don't spend money on these coffee externally. They actually spend it at home or make their coffee at home. And I said, exactly why we're doing this, because this is home away from home.
Oh, I love that.
And I think that's such a key thing, is that we spend so much time working, whether it's digital, online. We've got to make the experience that the people feel welcome, that they can contribute, and that they, as a human being, that those human beings are valued. So the coffee for IT people, it matters. So make it matter.
Yes.
Make sure they've got good coffee.
I think this shift that we're seeing at the moment, which is something that excites me a lot, is that I don't go to work to work. I go to work to connect. I go to work because I like the environment. A really practical example, I spoke to an executive from Microsoft a couple of days ago, just really around the fact that they were also rethinking and have redesigned some of their office spaces, particularly for IT talent, to say there's places where you can focus, quiet spaces. There's places where you can connect with exceptional coffee, comfortable couches in a hip and modern environment that doesn't look like you're working for a 1960s government department. And then there are spaces where we can say, but we need to collaborate. And I think that is also what I'm hearing around. Show people, we used to talk about the realistic job interview or the realistic job preview that we used to give people. And I think that now has give me a realistic view of the employee experience. What can I expect if I decide that this is the place where I want to spend my time as well? Annette, tips, tools, techniques for the audience. Is there something that you can share that you feel comfortable that can help them get started on their own ambassador program, or a resource that you can refer them to?
So I could probably refer them to our internal resources, but I can't really do that. But I think get partners involved. So get people who can help you coach and mentor, a proper mentorship program. And it's important, simple subjects that we might think is common knowledge for people. Things like how to really write a proper blog, a newsletter in English or whichever language it is. Get some of that involved. Now, again, don't be afraid if there's weird words, etc. Just allow that as well. The perfect English isn't necessarily the English that talks to that environment. Then again, as I'm around the coaching program, get people in the community involved. And later on, you'll see that these people will share with others as well. Then what we also did was with keeping the information relevant and around the photos, etc. We change. I mean, my hair color wasn't the same 3 weeks ago. So keep it relevant.
The same
and make
challenges.
So make it really easy. Don't make it difficult for the people. And we don't read long 20, 30 page articles anymore. We read short information. So those are just some of the information that happens, but partner with people that know how to do proper write-ups on LinkedIn. LinkedIn themselves were amazing with us. So get the right partnerships involved. I think that's key.
Perfect. Annette, thank you so much for joining me today for this invigorating conversation. I think for me, a few critical takeaways that you've already mentioned and that I've learned a lot. The first one is about authenticity. Make sure that your program is authentic. The second one, get the right people involved that wants to do this, that there's value for them in there as well, and that actually has the depth in terms of the expertise. Third one, don't underestimate leaders. It will take a while, but slowly, every conversation nudges them slowly in the right direction. And really, the fourth one is go and experiment. The worst thing that can happen is you say sorry and you learn from it and you try that again. Annette, thank you so much for joining us today. For the listeners out there that wants to contact you and get hold of you, what is the best way to reach out?
Dieter, thank you very much for this opportunity. The easiest way will be on LinkedIn. They can just inbox me on LinkedIn and then we can have a discussion there.